Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Carpenter, one of the hosts of Old College Try, the podcast. Today, Peggy and myself will be talking about early decision. Again, you've heard us talk about this before, but specifically about appealing when we get accepted early decision. What are best practices? What do we need to going into this process? How do we maximize our odds of success? And the other thing that we're going to talk about that we're really excited about is our net price calculator challenge. If you see an offer at a college's net price calculator that is different than what we are showing on myCAP, tell us. Our data folks will analyze it free. If the college is right and we're wrong, we'll give you $100. Thanks for listening. Okay. Hi, Peggy. Happy December.
Yeah, I know. It feels like Thanksgiving was eons ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
Winter weather here today. We had the real feel of 4 degrees this morning when I was outside.
Ooh.
So yeah, a little.
You don't want me to tell you what it's like in Tucson.
What do you got? Nice 70s, 80s?
Yep. Well, not 70s yet, but beautiful, cool sleeping weather. Wake up with the sun, and yeah. And it might even be 80 later this week, just for one day. Just for one day.
Yeah, that is fun. Now it's not going to hit 80 this week here, and if it does, it's the end of the world, probably.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
All right, Peggy, we didn't talk about this in the green room, but you're up. You got to give me a tune or either a song or a band or an artist.
Yeah, so I have one of my all-time favorite songs. So some people might cringe when they hear the artist because they know it's kind of like you love him or you don't, or it's like Notre Dame. You love him or you hate him. And I'm a huge Dylan fan. And one of my all-time favorite songs of his and just in general, and I'm sure you know this song. It's Tangled Up in Blue. Yeah. Now you have to be committed for our listeners. Like you got to go on, and it's a long song, but it's a great song. So not really tied to college in any way. But it's just one of those songs that I love.
Go listen to good music. It'll make everything better. I wouldn't necessarily think of Bob Dylan as a polarizing artist. I more think of him as more universally liked.
Well, and now some of his music, it's kind of like, let's all come together kind of thing. Right. I guess I'm just thinking when I was a kid, one of my sisters, she was like Michael Jackson, and I was like, no, Neil Young and Bob Dylan, I hate that. And some people will go, his voice, that kind of thing.
It is true.
They can't get past it. But
it's not a traditional beautiful voice. I think it's beautiful in its own way, but not. I'm trying to think of the song that my favorite Dylan song, or at least one of them that I've been big in. Oh, Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You. You know that tune?
Yep.
I love that song. Yep. Lay Lady Lay, Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You. Those are two of my favorite Dylan tunes. So, all right, good stuff. I mean, you're welcome, everybody. Just a little Bob Dylan to get your day going. Okay, well, let's. I don't know how to make a segue from Bob Dylan to early decision, but we're just going to do it. So what we're going to talk about today, this is kind of a theme that you'll hear us talk about, maybe even more episodes than not, right? But certainly all the time, and for good reason. We feel strongly about it. We think we know what we're talking about, but that is appealing. Okay, so how do we get a better deal than our initial offer? But we're going to talk about today's specifically appealing early decision. So before we get into the weeds, Peggy, why don't you first just tell us, what is early decision, or remind us what is early decision, and then we can kind of get into it.
Yeah, so it's a way to apply for admission. There's a bunch, several different ways to apply. The reason why we're talking about this now is it's timely. So early decision is the earliest deadline. The key thing is it's binding. So when your child applies early decision, you're basically telling the college, hey, if you let us in, you let my child in, we're coming, and you can get out. It's a signed contract, binding. You can get out of it if you say you can't afford it. But as Matt and I say all the time, you should know that before you apply to any of these colleges, in my opinion. But early decision, 100%, you should know if it's affordable for you. But so that's what early decision is. And the reason why we're doing this before the holidays is decisions are coming soon. And quite often the college will say, let us know within a week or 10 days. I will say, insider tip, I've had families more than once say, hey, give me a little bit more time. And usually the colleges say yes, not a month or two, but a couple weeks. So just keep that in mind if this is applicable to you. But that's why we're talking about it now. So you're going to be appealing now and not you've got to appeal right away if you're going to appeal. So
yeah, couple things to add there, right? And just by quick definition of appealing is essentially, again, I said it quickly, but we get accepted into the college, we get our full kind of financial aid and scholarship offer. Okay, here's what it's going to cost if you want to come to our school. And then there's a formal process of going back to that school and saying, no, we need to do better before we make this happen, right? And again, we'll expand upon exactly what that means specifically with ED today. But that's the long and the short of it, right? What are we doing? We're negotiating. Okay, we are negotiating to get a better deal, but we cannot use that's a swear word in the financial aid college kind of community. If they hear the word, and they being admissions counselors or financial aid counselors, right, on the college side of the desk, if they hear you use the word negotiate, that's probably the end of the negotiation. I'm not really exaggerating there either, right?
to me, it's like it's a word thing and it's a mindset thing. Like you don't want to think of this as like I'm gonna get my best deal on my car like I do. I'm always negotiating everywhere I go. That's you don't want to you are doing it, but change your mindset. It's a conversation with the college, it's a sharing opportunity. Because then it's gonna come off the way they want it to come off for you to be successful, basically.
That's right. And I also do want to just kind of re-emphasize when you sign this early decision agreement, you are signing it as the parent. The student is signing it, and the school counselor. So your kid's, college counselor, right, at their high school is signing that document too. So it's a pretty, I don't know, serious is the right word, but it's a fairly serious agreement. The colleges, they don't take it lightly, right? Your school counselors definitely don't take it lightly. We talked a lot about that news that came out of Tulane. And I'm going to pick on Tulane again today, but for different, albeit similar reasons, but where supposedly, and again, we've heard Tulane kind of dispute the article in their own way, but basically, I don't know if they blacklisted some high schools where the kids signed ED agreements and didn't end up going there, right, for financial reasons and otherwise. And basically that reflected poorly on, that high school, right? And obviously with some pretty innocent victims there if they wanted to go to Tulane. So again, there are two sides to that story, and we weren't, that close to it. We can only kind of see what we see from our vantage point, but very believable being in this, space for a couple of decades here. Those things do happen. We have seen that happen. So all that's to say, and Peggy said it, but again, our job is to just hammer you over the head with this. Before you sign that agreement, you have to know basically exactly what it's going to cost you and where does that fit within your family's budget. You have an obligation to know what that is, right? If you listen to us, you can go get that information, right, on mycap.collegeaidpro.com. You can see exactly what the school is going to cost you and where that falls within your budget or outside of your budget. And that should be a huge driver. And before you sign that, because Peggy, we know too that outside of, breaking the agreement, that if your kid is that excited about the school and goes ED and they get accepted, it's going to be a pretty hard conversation if at that point you're like, sorry.
Yeah, and if it's we can't afford it, not to be a hard ass, but the parents should figure that out ahead of time before you let your child. In my ideal world, you do it for all the schools on your list before you apply. But since we're focusing on ED, I mean, you gotta do your homework. And to Matt's point, we have a tool, mycap.collegeaidpro.com, that will do exactly that for you and more, and allow you to figure out your budget and everything so you can feel good about signing that line. For sure.
Exactly. And Peggy, you are a hard ass. So, sometimes you got to be a hard ass. That's going to come through. You're holding these people accountable. That's a good thing. We're looking out for their best interest there because again, and we say that because we see it every year where some of these horrible scenarios do happen. We get accepted into the dream school. And then we got to say to our kids, you earned it. You got accepted in here. You see the acceptance. And now we got to say we can't do it. Or maybe we are going to do it, but we're wildly overextending ourselves. Right? Yeah. Because we can't say no. So it's we don't want to be in that position, and it's avoidable.
There's no win in that situation.
100% right. They're both losses. Right. Okay. So talk to us first, Peggy, because I think a lot of people, you hear people say it all the time, and it's a little bit misguided. Something along the lines of, well, don't apply early decision because that means you can't appeal. And So just
Well,
talk to us
and
about that a little bit.
obviously you can because we're doing our podcast on this. But some people think that, right? You think if you know anything about appealing, a big part of it is leveraging what other schools do. So obviously you lose that because you don't have other schools financially to award letters to you. So that's a disadvantage of applying to ED from a purely appeal standpoint, but you absolutely can appeal. That's and just like all appeals, they're not going to rescind that ED and say, "How dare you?" They're going to entertain it or maybe not entertain it very well and then respond. They're not going to rescind the admission, but yeah, you absolutely can. It's just a little bit different. The timeline's different, everything's different. Because usually when kids get an ED, that award letter comes with it or right after it because the timeline is so short. So that's the other thing. You should have your ducks in a row and know what you think that college within a few thousand. You don't have to be, that's a win within a few thousand. So when you get
Mhm.
it, you're like, yeah, this is what we expected. Should we still appeal? Or this is wildly not what we expected. We definitely have our ducks in a row. We know how to appeal.
Yeah, so so a couple things there that again I'll just kind of re-emphasize timing, right? So we want to be they are gonna one of the disadvantages as a consumer for ED is you have this condensed timeline. And most schools, again, of course, there's a variation, say you got to make a call within 1 to 4 weeks. It's usually not longer than a month, right? So we got to make this
Yeah.
massive decision really quickly. So we got to be ready to appeal right away. Peg, I like your suggestion. We recommend it almost universally is give yourself some more time. Ask that school for an extension. Say, hey, we're psyched we're in, but A, we're appealing, and B, we would like to extend the timeline in terms of when our deposit is required, right? Which is basically your commitment to that school. They don't always say yes. It's up to them. They can say, sorry, brother, you got a week and that's the deal. Take it or leave it. We had somebody, I don't know if you saw that family that wrote into support where Villanova was breathing down their necks saying I'm sure they didn't reach out to us the first day, but they're like, Villanova said, we have to make a decision in 3 days. Can you help us? Right. And that's where we said, step number one is go back and see if you can, move that timeline back a little bit. And then we'll talk to you about the actual appeal. But yeah, that's and again, this huge decision of like adding this pressure of the time cooker is just, it's hard to think. It makes it harder to think real rationally, just pragmatically, right?
Yeah, and in the colleges, in their defense, it's like, you said you're coming, you got
Mhm.
in, what's the
Mhm.
decision, right?
Mhm.
And that's accurate
Fair
if
enough.
you've done your homework and you know the affordability piece. So again, I know we're saying it over and over again, but we're doing this because we've seen it year after year after year where people don't double down on this, and it can create a lot of friction and just a lot of stress that you can avoid.
Yeah, the something that I like, I don't know if you have any kind of best practices that you want to share specifically when it comes to appealing ED, but one of mine is I like to use the language that the each of these colleges have. Now, there's some basic boilerplate templates. Now, some individual colleges have their own early decision agreement. There's tons of overlap. They're all very similar. Number one, but make sure you read those. Again, I never read the fine print of anything, but this
Shocking.
yeah, this is something I'm probably giving myself too much credit here, but like I know I should read the fine print of this agreement. And actually, as a matter of fact, Peggy, I have, just as an advocate for families, because we've used that language successfully to say, hey, it says right in your agreement that if we can't afford this, we are allowed to break this agreement, right? That is a one of the few kind of things that again gives us a no harm, no foul. We can back out of this. So we use that language to our advantage to say, hey, of course you're our number one choice. That is why we applied ED, put all of our eggs in your basket. But guess what? We're still not there from a affordability standpoint. If we can increase it, X amount, and of course that the recommendation for what to ask for will vary based on the school and based on the situation, but we almost always have some type of language like that we pull directly from the agreement that we signed, quote it, right, in our appeal letter, and anchor to that as one of our strong data points, because that applies no matter who
Absolutely.
you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my other thing, and you kind of said it, is an ask is really important with EDs. So you're not messing around going back and forth. Ask can be important with other appeals as well, but especially with ED, because you just want to lock this puppy down. You want to make your ask be good with it. And when they say yes, which hopefully they will, then you're locked and loaded. Go ahead, send in the deposit check, and you're good to go.
We're off to the races. And just for as a deposits, when we put in a deposit at the college, when we commit to them, again, huge variation depending on the specific school, but usually on the low side it's a couple $100. On the high side it's usually around 1,000, and probably the average is somewhere in between there. So they want you to have some kind of skin in the game and say, hey, if you change your mind, you're out this $300, $500,000. But it's also, when we're talking about these huge decisions, and again, this is probably a different podcast when we talk about, in some cases, do we put down more than one deposit if we're going, does it make sense for our family to hedge? That is not a normal practice that we, recommend across the board, but there are scenarios, again, when it does make sense. So, and sometimes I say if a college won't budge with their timeline, but we feel like we really need more time. I've had the conversations with parents have been like, well, what's that worth to you to have, more time to make this like huge decision? Because maybe it's $300, but if you're like, hey, that even if I'm out that $300, I can give myself, months, right? It might be worth it. So little tangent there, but more of an FYI. So Peggy, I know you had a specific kind of, I don't know, case study, or call it what you wanted, or a family that you worked with that, is probably worth sharing some specifics there.
Yeah, I think this is a great example. So this was a family that I work with for the daughter, and then this was the son. So these parents had their ducks in a row. They knew pretty much what this school within a great ballpark figure were going to offer. And then they came to me flabbergasted, like, this is way less. So this was a need situation. This school actually offered merit. So we looked at merit, and I'm like, they let him in. Basically, he fit the stats to get in, but he was, he was lower middle. So they let him in because they're committed to go. So I'm like, this isn't a merit play. You're just not going to get there. He needed to be at the top to say, hey, what about the merit? So we let that alone, but I could easily tell, and this is a practice, you talk about schools doing this, they under-awarded this kid. So they deliberately, if you look at their stats and their average need met and all of that, which are averages, but this was a private school, so there's no in-state, out-of-state difference, majorly, like to the tune of like 15 grand under-awarded. And I think sometimes schools do this because they will figure, oh, this family's going to be overjoyed. We let their kid in, especially if the kid is, maybe wouldn't get in, regular decision, right? And they might just be so happy we're giving them money, and they just, where do I send that deposit? Not to be jaded, but these schools are businesses, and I'm sure that's what was going on here. So I said, all right, they're underawarded to the tune of 15 grand if they're meeting everything the way they say, which they don't always. So what is going to make this affordable for you? What were you? And they said, you know what? If we get another 10 grand over the 4 years, they were very steady Eddie with their income, we are good to go. I'm like, then that's our ask. And we literally were on a call with them, a Zoom call. And the woman looked at it. She said, done, which means they majorly underawarded. We called them on their bluff, and they were good. So that was $40,000 in their pocket. So again, didn't affect this kid's future at this college. Boom, done, and they were good to go. But the reason why it worked is because this family knew this is not right. So that is the key thing. They knew, and they came to us and said, hey, this doesn't work. What do we do here? So it was pretty painless.
We probably have something going on similar in real time right now. So I don't know if you saw last night, Peggy, or this morning, Michael Korch's note, right, in our kind of Slack channels, internal Slack channels, but one of our experts on our team based out of the Seattle area working with a family that was accepted ED into Tulane, right? Now, let me be clear. We haven't, the dust is not settled here. So it is too early to say why this is wonky here. I have my suspicions. I'm confident, right, in how this is likely going to play out and what's happened to date. But we were projecting that family to get $40,000, and we're dialed at Tulane. We sent a ton, very popular school, sent a ton of families there, right? So we know exactly how they do business, right? They got accepted ED. They didn't get 40,000. They got 5,000. Okay. Now, again, so I think there's a couple of things here. Now, number one, And I would say maybe the more likely is what you just outlined, Peggy, some version of, hey, let's see if they're just happy to get in. We'll award them and play. Some version of, let's make a deal here,
Yep.
right? My other suspicion here is, and again, our data team is looking at this now. I only know high level information. I haven't rolled my sleeves up either, but some of these colleges like Tulane, I'm getting a little granular here, but they use something called the institutional methodology, okay, which means they have a little bit of a different business model than colleges that only require the FAFSA, right, and therefore use the federal methodology, okay? If you're a school that uses the institutional methodology, you're supposed to award family financial aid based on that, right, based on the formula that you're supposed to be using, based on the formula that you say your college is using. We see a lot of instances where colleges that use the institutional methodology, right, if the federal methodology just happens to be higher, which is more the exception than the rule, but it happens, right?
If you have 2 kids in school, we're seeing it all the
You're
time.
right. You're right. Great point. Yeah, and again, because it's not like it's wildly infrequent by any stretch, but they'll kind of quote unquote hide behind that number and say, "Well, your FAFSA said your SAI was this." So families don't know better. They have no idea that Tulane uses the institutional methodology, and they're not supposed to be anchoring to that higher FAFSA number. So again, this is where it's so important to understand the college's business model, right? Because
Yep.
when we call colleges on that, I don't know, if we don't bat 1,000 on that, we're pretty stinging close to 100% success rate to be like, we know what you did. You used the federal methodology. You're not supposed to do that. Please award us based on the institutional methodology. And we're almost always successful, right, on that front. One other note I'll make, which I don't know if this is what's happening in Tulane, but I do know colleges use different terminology for this internally, right? This is not something they put on their brochures or on the website, but and this is not every college, of course, but a decent percentage of colleges have a practice that they call some version of admit deny. We will admit the student, but we will deny them any financial aid. And basically saying, and Peggy, it tends to be the kids that maybe just kind of squeaked in there, right?
Yep.
It wasn't their studs, right? It was just kind of squeaked in there. And it'll say, okay, we'll let you in here. There's only one deal. You got to pay us full rack rate. So if you want to come here, you got to pay us full sticker price, even if you should be eligible for financial aid, right? That's what
Yep.
we're talking about here. So we see that, and that's another just very annoying practice, to put it.
Yeah, and just to touch on, we're talking all about need-based aid. There are merit appeals for the merit scholarships. A lot of the schools that have early decision, they're the Ivies and the Stanfords of the world, and they just don't give merit, so it's not applicable. But there are schools that do offer merit that offer ED, like Southern Cal, USC. So, but it's very competitive. So you wouldn't want to bank on, hey, we're going to do, I mean, you can always try, but you don't want to bank on, hey, we're going to get a merit scholarship or we weren't given one from USC or one of these other schools that does offer merit. Because typically those type of schools, they say, like Duke says they offer merit. It's tiny percentage. I would never tell any family to count on any merit aid from Duke or USC, honestly, unless it's a certain kind of kid with a certain background and ethnicity and all this stuff where it's like, yeah, there's a better chance. So just keep that in mind. If you've got a superstar kid on paper, you got to play worst case scenario when you're doing ED with that. Not all the stars are aligned and everything works out, and that's the only way it's affordable. You don't want to go at it that way.
Yeah, we'll never project that any student, regardless of what their credentials are, will get merit at Duke, at WashU, at Boston College. Each of these places technically have merit, but we all know it's I think UChicago's one, right? Like it's hard enough
I
to
know.
get into these schools, right? Much less be that fraction of a percentage of the accepted students that actually get the merit. So that's why we gotta bank against it. Now, if you are appealing merit, what I would say here, and again, we'll expand upon this in different podcasts and remind you of this. The student should be leading the charge here. This is happening with the admissions counselors in the admissions office. They are investing in the student, right? So it is the student that should be the loudest voice in the room if we are appealing for more merit-based aid, more scholarships, right? Said another way. So that's just best practice that I'll kind of throw in there with that. So I think related to this, Peggy, I think very much related to this is our net price calculator challenge. Are you going to hear us talk about this, right, with probably some frequency, but Just lay it out for us, Peggy, in your words. What are we talking about here? What is this
Yeah,
challenge?
and net price calculators, and that's why it's so relevant here, because a lot of schools, if you reach out to them and you're not working with us, they'll just say, "I go to our net price calculator."
Mm.
That'll tell you. And what we found through the years is they're wildly inaccurate for a whole bunch of reasons. So if you follow us on social media, which please do, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, we've been all over the place with this stuff, where we had an example with Northwest and went to bat with a family. But we do have this MPC challenge is what we're calling it. So you get into our software, you put in your data, which isn't hard, doesn't take very long. You get our projections, you go in that net price calculator and you put that in. If you see massive differences, and we want you to reach out to us. This makes us better, and it actually makes us look good, to be totally honest, because most of the time it's like, yeah, we're actually better than this college's calculator. So it's a win for you, because you're going to get some free analysis from us. To be honest, our data team, which is the biggest part of our team, will get in the weeds on it and go through it. And what's the deal, Matt, that when does the money come?
As soon as, so if you do the net price calculator to college, right? You don't even, we want you to do it in our software too, right? We'll do it for you otherwise, but it'll be easier and more efficient if you, set up it can be a free account, mycap.collegeaidpro.com. See what we're projecting. You'll see what the college is projecting. You send it into us. It's NPC, right, for net price calculator at collegeaidpro.com. Our data team will look at it and they'll say, you know what, this college, and test us on our honesty here, but this college actually has the projection correct, and they are more accurate than we are projecting at that college. If and when that's what we discover, you're going to get $100, right? And if you're real industrious, go do some homework. Try to find a bunch that are, better than. If you find 5, we'll give you $500, right? I mean, this is not a one-shot deal, because a couple things. Number one, we're just unbelievably confident, and we wouldn't do this if we were scared we were going to lose our shirts here. I hope we do a couple times, right? I hope we,
because that makes us better. Yeah, if we find some
100%.
instances where we're off, that's good for everybody. Yeah.
Can you hear that noise in the background, Peggy?
No, there's
Somebody's
no
sending me a
noise.
huddle. All right, good.
No, I can't hear it at all.
All right, good. Shouldn't they? Wouldn't people on this team know that we are trying to,
podcast time? Although you're late every week,
I mean,
so you're late every week, so they probably figure we're done.
That's true. We must be done by now. That's true. Yeah, that very fair, Peggy. I had that one coming.
Sorry,
but yeah, we'll give it, because the thing here is too is, again, number one, we just want people to know that we are the source of truth, right? And we're willing to put our money where our mouth is. Okay, that's so, and we are challenging anybody and everybody to prove us wrong on that. Okay. And I hope we find some cases in which that in fact happens, because guess what? Now we're going to be more accurate at that college, right? And we're going to change our algorithm for that particular college right away. So that's worth a lot of money to us to be more accurate. And we want people, again, kind of beating us up and challenging us. And again, them understanding that, kind of seeing themselves that, okay, these guys are the source of truth, like they say they are. And when we're not, we're going to get better, and we're going to reward you for helping us out. Help.
Yeah, and then you're taking the steps to make your process better, less stressful. You're knowledgeable. You're in the driver's seat. If it's ED or EA or regular decision, you're in the driver's seat. And that's our whole goal.
And let me just say too, this is very much related, and we'll have some of this language in some of our promotion in the challenge. If you just get an award from a college and you're like, hey, I want these guys to look at it, right, to see how did I do? Should I do better? How much better? Talk to us, right? Our pros, our experts will talk to you. They'll do a free 15-minute evaluation, right? And they'll steer you straight, right? When people work with us for appeals, we almost have 100% success rate, because we'll turn some people away, right? If your SAIs, if you live in Massachusetts and your federal SAI is 35,000, and you got into Penn State and they didn't give you anything, we're not going to do any better. That's Penn State. So we're not going to set ourselves up for failure. We're just going to say, guys, this is the deal. This is Penn State. Go ahead and appeal. Go ahead and appeal, or have your expectations very low, right? And we'll tell you that, and that'll be the end of that. And at least it is what it is, right? At this school. But if we see an opportunity and say, hey, we have a lot of experience with the school, we think we can help you do better, we'll talk to you about that, what that looks like. But take us up on that. as well. Reach out to us, and then obviously our listeners, College Try 15, right? Anytime you want to use that coupon code for any of our stuff, you get 15% off. So
we'll
that would be
just
applicable
end
here.
by saying, just on this psychology parenting note, these decisions are coming down, whatever they are. If it's not what your child wants to hear, please emphasize with them it is not an indicator of their success in their life, what they did in high school, and if it was worth it. These colleges make these decisions in literally 10 minutes, and they will land where they're supposed to land. I just want to say that from a parenting standpoint, then it just they'll keep going on their journey and be that force with that message to them, because there's so much anxiety around this and negativity when you don't hear what you want to hear. And you know what? It's a growth opportunity. We all know things don't always go the way that we want in life, and that's just it. You just learn how to deal with it, basically.
They're guaranteed to not go how you want them to all the time. So you can be less surprised when it happens. You're just like, oh, I didn't know what today's...
a lot of schools out there, and it's all good.
And I'll just say one more thing, right? Because obviously this is all exaggerated, whatever the word is, with social media, right? So when we don't get in, oftentimes we have to see, somebody else in my class kind of did get into the top choice. And I would just say, especially to parents, I don't know how the kids kind of handle it. I'm sure it's very public no matter what, but just be cognizant of that. Just think about that. Again, you want to be proud and like show off your kid, and you're so psyched they get into your top choice. I would just say specifically on social media, and this is just feedback I've got from parents of just like, it was one thing when my kid, didn't get into their dream school, but then their classmate did. And it was, I don't know, kind of, and of course it wasn't thrown in their face. I don't think anybody's being intentionally cruel or whatever, but I would just be cognizant of that. Whatever you're kind of posting publicly, just think about some people that, again, this could hurt if it was your kid that you wouldn't want them to see or whatever. So that's all. And again, when I get feedback from parents, that's one that I get with some frequency of like, that was salt in the wound type of deal, seeing some of those.
Yeah, and just keep it in perspective. Even if your child gets in, that doesn't mean they still have a life to live and initiative they have to show and work they have to do. It's not a golden ticket, so
Yep.
Keep all that in mind.
All right, Peggy, we'll go listen to some Bob Dylan here, and we'll see you in a week.
All right, see you next time.
Bye, guys. Okay, thanks for listening to Old College Try, the podcast. I was joined by our expert host, the fairy godmother of financial aid, Peggy Keough. Today's episode was edited and produced by Eileen Campbell. Again, if you want to work with us in any capacity, use coupon code CollegeTry15 for 15% off, and make sure, if you haven't already, join our Net Price Calculator Challenge. If you go find a college that is more accurate in projecting what they cost than we are, we'll send you $100. Thank you, and see you next week.